There are many well-known mysterious locations where strange creatures dwell on our planet, Area 51 being the most notable. But Britain has its own areas of mystery, with bizarre creatures that defy natural explanation. One such place is the forest of Cannock Chase, where a grotesque creature called the Pigman dwells. The forest of Cannock Chase spans for several hundred square kilometres. Hidden among the birch and bracken is a disused World War II airfield and the abandoned village of Brinley. There have been many reports of paranormal activity in the area. Strange lights, ghostly apparitions and UFOs are often sighted. The area is famous for its natural beauty and attracts thousands of visitors each year. Though few locals venture into the woodlands by day, they avoid the area entirely by night, for fear of the Pigman. There are two tales of origin for the Pigman. The first tells the tale of a young pregnant girl who was driven from her home amid accusations of witchcraft. Afraid, and with nowhere else to go, she gave birth in a secluded glade, far enough from the village so that the painful cries of childbirth would be swallowed by the forest. The baby was cursed with witch's blood and was born hideously disfigured. Knowing that the village community would look upon her son as an omen of evil, the girl chose to abandon the child beneath the shadow of what locals call Mossfirth Tower. The girl then called upon the woodland spirits to accept her child as a gift, before returning to the village to repent on her evil ways. However, the villagers were not of a mind to forgive the girl and had her imprisoned, where she would eventually die of a fever. About a year later, stories of a fearsome creature began to spread throughout the village. Reports described the creature as massive in size, with a hideous, pig-like facial features, and was often seen sulking in the tree line, watching the children play. Often the creature would strike in the dead of night, raiding farm animals and leaving their grisly remains strewn across the ground. There followed an unseasonably harsh winter, and once all animals had been consumed, children began to disappear into the woodland, never to return. The villagers became so frightened of the Pigman that they abandoned the village, never to return. The second tale of origin is that this monster was the result of an experiment. World War II had just ended, and British and American scientists pulled together their knowledge to conduct a series of unusual experiments in order to create a super soldier, a similar project to the Germans' experiment using apes. Allegedly, they abducted a woman from the nearby village, hypnotised her, then impregnated her with artificial DNA of a human pig. The scientists closely monitored the woman for 10 months, but then nothing happened, and they determined that the test did not work. A year later, they were shocked to discover that her pregnancy was somehow severely delayed. She bore a grotesque baby who had the snout and face of a pig, but the body of a human. The woman died 5 years later, and the creature fled into the woods of Cannock Chase to avoid the hurtful glances of human eyes. There have been numerous sightings of the Pigman over the years, with many unwilling to make their names public for fear of being ridiculed. One account was in October 1993. A couple were walking around the castle ring when they heard noises coming from the surrounding trees. At first, they believed that it was a local couple enjoying a secret liaison and began to walk back towards their car, giggling to themselves as they went. Upon reaching the steps down to the car park, the man happened to turn around and caught sight of the strangest creature he had ever seen. He described the creature as 7 feet tall. From the neck down, it looked like a man, even wearing clothes, but its head was far too big for a human, and it had an elongated face with a snout-like nose. Unsure if what he had seen was real, he pointed it out to his wife, who confirmed that the creature was real. Both became terrified and started walking more quickly towards the car and got inside. It was then that they started to hear a really high-pitched squealing noise that sounded like a pig being killed. They sped off, never to return. In 2006, a group of 5 friends decided to camp out for the night, close to the road. They set up their tents and built a fire for warmth and light. A police car pulled up and told them to put out the fire and to move on, but the group refused. The police officer pressed them no further and left, something they found strange. That night they were awoken by the sound of something scratching against the trees all around them. None of them was frightened as such, as they thought it only natural that there would be animals in the forest. The next morning, all but one member of the group had to leave for work, but they decided that they would spend a second night in the forest. The one man who didn't have to work moved their camp deeper into the forest so that they would not draw any unwanted attention from the police. He spent 5 hours alone, setting up 3 tents, built a surround to stop the wind and got all the firewood ready. 2 members of the group eventually came back and said no one was up for stopping the night. After spending hours setting up camp, the member that had stayed behind was angry and decided that he would camp out alone. As it got dark, and not really wanting to be alone in the forest, the man rang all the people in his phone book, but none would come. He was walking on a narrow path when he began to hear movement all around him. He stopped and called out, unafraid and lighting a cigarette. Suddenly, about 200 yards away, he saw a white figure on all 4s, which looked like it was sniffing the ground, as a dog would, though the sound it was making sounded more like a pig sniffing. At first, the man thought it was a large boar and watched it for about 30 seconds, trying to determine it. Then it stopped dead and didn't move. The creature then stood up on its back legs. The man described it as being 7 feet tall, a humanoid pig which chased him, squalling like a ghost crossed with a pig. Getting into his car, the man sped away, and now refuses to walk the forest alone. Skeptics dismissed the notion of the Pigman as nothing more than local folklore that has grown over time, with inconsistencies, often changing from a ghost to a living creature, or at times an alien. They point out that if the creature was real, there would be more sightings and some evidence of a dwelling. The vast majority of people who walk the forest paths witness nothing out of the ordinary. As with all things paranormal, the Pigman divides opinion of skeptics and believers, but ultimately it comes down to one question: do you believe?